Welcome to the College Admissions Collaborative highlighting engineering and technology virtual college fair. Thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenter at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions. And this presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at strivescan.com/cachet. And now I'd like to turn it over to our presenter from the College of New Jersey. Take it away.
Thanks, Anna. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin. I am an admissions counselor at TCNJ, and I'm going to be sharing some information with you about the college, hopefully giving you a nice kind of introductory experience. And then I'll open up to questions because I'd love to hear directly from you what you want to learn more about. So I'm going to share my screen and go through a brief presentation. Here we are. Yes. So first of all, welcome to our virtual room. I wish that I could welcome you physically onto campus, but I'm hoping that through our time here today, I might be able to give you kind of a mental image of what you might see if you were to come to campus. So that's what I'll start us off with today. Just if you were to come to campus, what might you find? Well, first of all, we are located in Ewing, New Jersey. If you're unfamiliar with Ewing, it's between Trenton and Princeton, so Central Jersey. And we're also close to equidistant between New York City and Philly. So very centrally located, a very convenient place to live. I refer to New Jersey lovingly and jokingly as the land of convenience, meaning nothing's ever too far away. And I think our location in Ewing really embodies that. So that's good for if you just want to go into the city to see a show or get dinner with your friends for fun things. But it's also a great opportunity if you want to pursue research or internship opportunities in either of those cities or in either of those adjacent towns, Trenton and Princeton. If you want to work at the state or local level, Trenton is probably going to be a great option for you because it's the state capital. So of course, if you want to go to Princeton, a lot of great opportunities to work in medicine, business, really big hubs for those as well, or just a nice place to go take a walk. So I love our location, but our campus itself is very much in its own space. So it's located in kind of a nice, quiet suburban town, but the campus itself is very much what you think of when you think of a traditional college. It's that classic Georgian architecture, so nice red brick. We have 2 lakes on campus. There's a lot of greenery and a lot of places to spread out. At the same time, it's not more than like 15 minutes to walk from one end of campus to the other. So you're not catching a bus to get anywhere. If you roll out of class or if you roll out of bed 15 minutes before class, you're probably going to be able to make it there on time. Although don't tell your parents if you choose that method. But it's nice to know that it's a fallback. And I think that idea of balance, you know, our location being balanced and also our size being balanced can also help you infer some things about the student body just by the environment that it lives in. So our student body is, you guessed it, pretty balanced, I would say. When I'm pressed to describe the average TCNJ student, I think it's kind of hard because we do have a diverse student body. We have students from all over, so they represent a range of different personalities, skills, interests. But I would say that what they all have in common is that they really like what they're studying. They like going to class. They enjoy and really have a passion for what it is that they want to pursue academically. At the same time, they're not going to just go to class and then go to Starbucks and then go back to their room and that's it. Usually they're involved in something else outside of just their classes. So we have a number of clubs, organizations, sports teams, a lot of things that students like to get involved with. So they like to balance those academic pursuits with just other interests. They're passionate about a lot of things. So I would say that that is kind of a peek into our campus community, but I will be glad to go into some more detail. So you see a ranking here. It's a big old number 1. I can give you some more context on what exactly it means. So every year, Money Magazine does rankings. A lot of places do rankings for colleges, as you know. And this ranking in particular was for best colleges for your money in the year 2018. So this number 1 means that we were deemed the best bang for your buck or best college for your money in the year 2018 for that public college in the mid-sized range category. And this was nationally. So we're really proud to hold this title. I think there are some other rankings that might help you kind of learn some things about the college as well. And it's kind of all pointing towards that same thing of a good value. So we are the #1 public college in the Northeast as rated by US News and World Report for the last 28 years. So it's a really long-standing tradition, another thing that we're really proud of. Now, I didn't go to TCNJ for my undergrad, disclaimer. A lot of people think I'm currently a student. No, I attended elsewhere for my undergraduate institution, but this was my first job out of college. So when I was looking at TCNJ, just trying to absorb as much information as possible, I really did a deep dive into what these rankings mean, what they represent, and kind of where we fall and what falls around us. So in that same category, or sorry, same organization, it was US News and World Report. They also did a ranking for best colleges in the Northeast among both public and private. So this #1 originally was just for public, but out of the public and private ranking for the Northeast, we fall #4. And I actually think that #4 kind of tells you even more about the college than the #1, even though #1 is flashy and we love that. But the #4 is significant because I looked at the list and we were the only public college, in the top 10 on that list, and therefore also the cheapest by at least $20,000 or more. So what that is telling you is that we kind of straddle this divide between what a public college represents and what a private college represents. We kind of pull the best parts of each and then we put it together and give you that, but for a public school cost. So you're still keeping that cost low while getting an education that rivals other really esteemed private colleges with much smaller class sizes and a much more kind of personalized academic experience at other institutions. So what all this is to say, like I said, this is a very high value, and I will go more into detail on what exactly that means. So our overall enrollment is around 7,000 students, or a little less. I think it's around 6,800 undergraduate students. And we are mostly an undergraduate institution, meaning that we do have a small graduate population, but our focus really is on those undergraduate students. So we are proud of those graduate students, but they are a much smaller kind of chunk of the college, which means that at other schools where you might have to elbow your way through older students to get to opportunities that would go to, a master's student, you would have access to as early as your freshman year. So you're not waiting around to be able to get that experiential learning component to your education. You're really having opportunities to work with your professor on research within your first year, just to have a good relationship with your professors and kind of build that professionalism from the start. Our average class size is 21. So I mentioned small class sizes being a hallmark of usually private institutions, but definitely a hallmark of TCNJ as a public institution. So this is probably not that different than what you're used to in high school. You wouldn't be in a lecture hall. We don't have them on campus. It's not just that we don't like them, it's just that it's not really built into the integrity of the college. So all of our classes aren't big enough to accommodate any more than, I think, about 40 students would be the maximum. So there are plenty of places on campus for the larger campus community to come together. Those are performance spaces or dining spaces or other, student center spaces, stuff like that. But the classes are really meant to be this kind of smaller experience that you can be challenged. They're going to know your name, so you can't really hide. But it's also more supportive because if you need help, it's really easy to secure that in a smaller environment. And our student faculty ratio is 13:1, so it's also pretty low. Now this number at the bottom that you see is the freshman retention rate. And I feel very strongly about freshman retention rate because students transfer out of colleges or drop out of colleges every year for any number of reasons. It could be that they're just not feeling supported. Maybe they're not acclimating well socially. Maybe they just think they would be happier somewhere else. So there are any number of reasons that students could leave. So our freshman retention rate is 94%, which means that if you do attend TCNJ, there's a 94% chance that you're going to like it enough, feel supported enough, have the chance to acclimate socially and find friends, and overall feel good being a student at the college enough to come back again for your sophomore year. And this is a really good indicator of any school's overall student happiness. So any school that you're looking at, I suggest that you ask them what is your freshman retention rate. Now, I mentioned experiential learning a couple times in reference to internship or research opportunities, but that's not the only way that you can experience learning outside of just the classroom. And this is really pushed to students at TCNJ because most of our students are really hands-on learners and they're really eager to get into that space where they can start using their skills. So one of them is through community engaged learning. This is basically service. So it could be service in conjunction with the class, which we would call a service learning class, where you go to class, you might learn about art and how that intersects with social justice, or it could be an education course, or could even be engineering. It doesn't matter what it is, but there are opportunities for you to serve at the same time that you're learning and kind of put those things into practice. Conferences and competitions, that's also a great way to get your feet wet in the professional world. It's not just an opportunity for you to get some experience speaking in front of other people, working on a team and collaborating. It's also a chance for you to get in front of real professionals. So it's a great networking opportunity. It's also a great chance to build leadership in yourself and kind of discover your own leadership style in those groups. For example, we had a number of students, I think it was 3 physics students, who were invited to a conference in Georgia, pre-COVID, don't worry. So they traveled to Georgia and it was for a conference, it was a physics conference. So they were pretty surprised to find that they were actually the only undergraduate students at that event. Every other student there was a PhD student. So skip masters, go straight to PhD. And these 3 TCNJ students were thought to be able to hold their own against a lot of students who were just a bit farther along in the academic process than they were. So they came back from that conference feeling like they had grown as leaders in their field, and also that they had a chance to learn directly from leaders in their field. So it's just an example. That's something that's available to any major. And internships. Usually when I did in-person presentations, I would ask everyone, how many of you anticipate doing an internship in college? And most would raise their hands, and those that didn't would be nudged by their parents to raise their hands. So eventually everyone raises their hands, and I do anticipate most students coming into TCNJ doing some kind of internship. It's a really great way to meet a liaison to the professional world. You want to be able to get a job as soon as you can when you leave college. And this is really one of the best ways that you can get experience in front of other people and also learn whether or not that's really something that you love. So we have some students who think, I know I want to be a teacher. It's my calling. I know it. So at TCNJ, they have the opportunity to do student teaching earlier than at other schools. At some schools, you would have to wait until your senior year. At TCNJ, we would get you in a classroom as early as your sophomore year for what they call a practicum. So you're not teaching it at that point, but you're at least, experiencing it. You're still working with students and with the teacher. So that's an opportunity for you to say, this is great. I'm so glad I'm getting so much more experience than other students at other schools. Or you can say, oh my God, get me out of here. This isn't what I thought it would be. Or maybe I just need to work with older students or younger, something like that. So the theme at the college is that we want you to get an internship or research experience as early as possible so that you can learn more about your trajectory. Leadership at TCNJ takes many forms. I spoke about this a little bit in reference to conferences and competitions, but there are a lot of ways to lead at TCNJ without ever having to leave the campus. We have over 200 clubs and organizations currently, and so I think of that as 200 opportunities to be a president or a captain or VP, secretary, treasurer, whatever it might be. You might not even necessarily have a title for the leadership position that you take within a group, but I think most of our students graduate with a much stronger sense of their personal leadership style. And I've spoken a little bit about research in tandem with internships. This is really a different experience, and this is something that you could pursue no matter your major. So when I was going to college, I was a communications major, so I never really anticipated doing research in my undergraduate career. I just thought it was something that was attributed to science majors, anything under STEM. And since you are likely all in STEM, if you're at this fair, then this might really cater to your needs. But this is available across the board at TCNJ. So you know that the people that you're going to school with are going to be doing research. You might collaborate with them across the board. So you might be doing a summer research project with your professor, who may also teach classes in a different discipline. So it really just helps to know that your experience isn't going to be limited just to STEM, even though you're going to have so many opportunities to do research within that field. so many of the people that you're going to be working with will be able to offer you different perspectives and make you a more well-rounded student. And last experiential learning component that I'll talk about is study abroad. Now, this is usually more popular in other times, non-pandemic times, but I hope that when we get back to normal, we're closer to it at least, these opportunities will become available again. And pre-COVID, TCNJ was #1 in New Jersey for study abroad, meaning that we sent more students abroad than any other school in New Jersey. So it's a higher percentage than any other school in New Jersey, rather. So this is definitely something that we do very well. We're in 150 different locations across the globe. So if there's something that you have in mind, a place that you always wanted to go, there's a good chance that we already have a program established there. And it's also good to know that your scholarships would transfer. So you would pay the same tuition rate to study abroad in, Barcelona as you would at TCNJ. Okay, now I want to pivot and talk about academics a little bit. So under Now Find Your School, you'll see 7 academic schools, and I will give you a full list right here. Now, there are over 50 majors between those 7 schools. You can take a look, see if anything, might suit you. And just know that if there's something that is not on here that you have your eye on, or maybe you're just not sure yet that you want to commit to anyone in particular, know that undeclared is an option. So undeclared is an option within 6 out of these 7 academic schools. So anything other than nursing, health, and exercise science, because there's only 3 majors. And it's also available as undeclared general. So if you don't even want to commit to one of those 7 academic schools, you can be in a very exploratory type program. So if you're in the same boat like me, I was undeclared going into college, I can totally understand what your thought process might be. And you just want to know that even if you're going into undeclared, that you're still going to have the support to find what it is that you do want to specialize in later on, and particularly by the end of your sophomore year, because usually at that point you're starting to have to take more advanced classes. So you're probably going to have to make a decision at any school by that point. And that is the way that the system is set up at TCNJ. So if you're undeclared within any of these schools, those programs are set up to make sure that you have the support to find what it is that you want to pursue by the end of your sophomore year and declare your major, and that you'll also graduate on time. TCNJ's graduation rate, or 4-year graduation rate actually, is the 5th highest in the country among public colleges. So we're not going to let any students fall through the cracks on that, especially those that might just want to feel out a few different things their first year. Now, I want to circle back to those clubs and organizations that I referenced earlier, because this is really fun and something that I get a lot of questions about from students. So these are the categories of different clubs or organizations that you would find under the branch of student involvement at TCNJ. So they fall into academic and career, advocacy, club sports, culture and community, fraternity and sorority, general interest, honor societies, media performance, and religious and spiritual life. If you're curious as to what general interest is, it's kind of just a catch-all. So anything that doesn't fall into any one of those other categories would be under general interest. So Harry Potter Club, Knitting Club, Manhunt Club, you name it, it falls under general interest. And if you're interested in sports, this is also something that TCNJ prides itself in. We have 20 Division III varsity athletics. So if you want more of a balance between your academics and your social life and that sport that you want to pursue in college, D3 might be the option for you. A lot of people have their eye on D1 when they're looking into schools originally, but I think you'll find that D1 is great, but it is kind of like a full-time job sometimes. I was a D1 athlete for a time when I was in college, so I can attest that it is a great deal of your time. So if you're just looking for more of a balance, I think D3 is a great option for you. And you really can't go wrong with any of our sports teams. Altogether, they have won 40 national championships and counting. So they are really good at what they do. I don't know individual statistics. Please don't ask. I have no idea, but I know that they're all very strong. And these are the list of sports if you want to take a screenshot or just take a look to see if what you're interested in is available here. And just know that if there's something that you do that's not listed on here, it may be available as a club sport or an intramural sport. This is just the D3 athletics. And now I'm just going to talk briefly about submitting your application and that whole process. I'm wondering whether some of you are juniors or seniors. Maybe you've already been accepted to TCNJ, or maybe you're just kind of trying to take a look at what your application might look like for next year. But these are your application components. It's all pretty standard. We take the Coalition app or the Common application, whichever you prefer. We have no preference. So you need to submit your primary or secondary major transcript, you would need to tell us what you want to be considered for. So you do need to tell us what major you want to be considered for. We'll ask you for your primary choice and a secondary choice. That secondary choice only really comes into play for 7-year medical students who, if they aren't accepted into the 7-year medical program, we would then reach out and ask if they wanted to be considered for their secondary major. Otherwise, figure out what you want to be considered for as your primary, and then take it from there. Oh, I'm sorry. My computer is asking me to update. I want to make sure I don't update and lose you all. Okay, I think we're good now. So you need to submit your transcript. This would be sent directly from the institution. So if it's your high school, great. If you are coming in as a transfer student, then you need to send it directly from the college that you attended previously. That's the only way it would be considered official. Demonstrated interest has really become an application component over time. This is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's any time that you show interest in the college, and that could be sending us an email just telling us that you're really interested in the school and you're anxiously awaiting your decision. It could be coming for a virtual event like this, or a tour, or anything like that. It makes sense that we're excited about students that are excited about us too, and that we know did the research on what it is that they're applying into. Extracurricular activities or resume. You don't have to submit a resume, but you can if you like. Otherwise, just list anything that you're involved in under your activities on Common App. I think they give you up to 10 spots to be able to list things, I think. So anything counts. It could be that you have a part-time job. It could be that you're a caretaker at home. I think a lot of people know, of course, you're going to write down if you're in the biology club or debate club or something like that. But we really just want to know how you're spending your time. So if there's something that you're not sure whether or not you should put down, if you see value in it, I'm sure that we will too. Letters of recommendation, we require 2. You can send a 3rd if you want, it's optional. First should be from your counselor, and then second should be from a teacher. And your application essay, this is just your Common App essay or Coalition app. So it's just the essay that you're sending to any of the schools that you're applying to. So make sure that it is general and doesn't shout out any schools in particular. It's kind of fun when we get TCNJ shout outs every now and then, but I think, oh, I really hope Rutgers isn't reading this essay too. So make sure it's been proofread by someone that you trust, either a parent or an English teacher or something like that, and that it is your best work to submit with your application. We do offer some optional essay components. One is a question and answer. I think it's 3 questions. And we love to see when students take the extra time to submit that. And then this year we added one other component, which is just a simple, why do you want to come here question. So if you can't answer that, then I guess we would have some trouble from the start, but hopefully you do have an idea of how you can articulate your interest in the college and then submit that along with your application. Now you'll see at the bottom it says SAT or ACT scores are optional. This is true for the next 3 years. So even if you're a junior or sophomore this year, know that it's still going to be an option for you to submit your test scores or not. If you want to submit them, by all means, it will definitely be a part of your application, and we're happy to take a look. If not, you're definitely not going to be penalized. A lot of students got really nervous about having the option this year, even more so than when it was required, which I was kind of surprised by. But this is the way I explain it. If your application is like a pie chart and all of your application components, so everything you see on the list here are pieces of that pie. If you submit your scores, it's a piece of the pie. It's not the whole thing. It'll be considered just the same way that all your other application components are. If you don't submit your scores, it's not like there's a piece missing. We're not going to consider your application incomplete. It's just think of all the other application components becoming a little bit bigger so that the pie is still whole. So we're just taking an extra look and using the time that we would spend to review your scores to review everything else. And know that your transcript is probably going to hold the most weight, at least in our review. because that's how you did over the course of time. So if you're toiling over whether or not to submit your scores, you just talk to your counselor, look up the average scores for a school that you want to submit to and make the decision based off that, and know that your transcript is probably going to shine the brightest. We're going to spend the most time on that. And then everything else is definitely taken into consideration. It's a very holistic review. These are just some notes for specialty applications. So if you're applying into an art program, you're going to need to submit a portfolio. For music, you need to submit an audition. Those are reviewed by the departments. Don't worry, I don't know anything about the tuba, so that would be reviewed by the experts, our professors. If you're applying for the EOF program, that is Educational Opportunity Fund, this is an opportunity for students to be able to study at TCNJ with a very significant scholarship. Your family would have to qualify based off of your family income, so you would need to submit tax documents and stuff like that. If you're applying for the 7-year medical program, you would need to submit some supplemental documents as well. There may be an extra written prompt that you need to complete, but there is always 2 interviews. So one would be through NJMS, which is New Jersey Medical School Rutgers, and the other one is with TCNJ. These are your application deadlines. You can take a quick screenshot, but this is also readily available online. And just keep in mind that if you're applying to the 7-year medical program, the deadline is earlier than most. It's November 1st. So keep that in mind if you're a junior thinking of applying next year. You can either apply early decision or general admission. You'll see 2 waves of early decision, or ED as I call it. There's no difference. It's just some people need more time to put their application together. But early decision is a binding agreement. So this is you saying, if you accept me, I am definitely coming. I will withdraw my application from all the other schools, and I really want to be a Lion. So if you feel like you can make a decision at the time that you're submitting your application, then that's great. Maybe early decision is a great option for you. I want you to also make sure to have a conversation with your family about the financial commitment, because if you apply to the college, you would find out if you received a merit scholarship, and you would get your financial aid package after you've been accepted. So at that point, of course, you've already made the commitment to apply ED. So if you're comfortable with that, that's great. If not, if you have any other hesitation or just want to keep your options open, just apply general admissions. You can still submit your application at any point, so you don't have to wait until February 1st by any means, but you can submit anytime. And if you're coming in as a transfer student, just take note of those application deadlines as well, because those are different than the first-year deadlines. And that is all I have for you today. I am going to stop sharing my screen right now and take some questions from you if you have any. But this picture, just to give you some context, is of, in the back, Green Hall, and in the front, that is a part of our new STEM facility, the one with the windows there. It's a really beautiful place to be able to work and do research. I've been in there many times since it was completed in 2017. And among all the other science professors who already had labs on campus, every engineering professor that didn't already have a lab on campus before this was built now has one. So a lot of great spaces for you guys in there. Okay, I'm stopping sharing, checking. Okay, I have a question about the 7-year med program. Can you talk about your BSMD program and pre-med program? Absolutely, and I'm going to pull up a link for you that will explain everything that I'm about to say, but in a lot more detail. Give me one moment. So the 7-year program is for students who know that they want to pursue medical school. And this is a way for you to cut out 1 year in that pursuit. So ordinarily you would go get your undergraduate degree in 4 years, and then you would get your doctorate in 4 additionally after that. So it's a total of 8 years. In this case, you would get your bachelor's degree at TCNJ in 3 years, and then you would go on directly to NJMS, New Jersey Medical School Rutgers, to get your doctorate degree in 4 years. So it's great if you want to expedite that process and really just get out into the field earlier, and also know that you have that guarantee of being able to pursue medical school at the same time that you're getting your undergraduate degree. So for some people, it's wonderful. For others, it may be that you're thinking about pursuing medicine, but you're not sure exactly how yet. Maybe you'd rather get a master's in physical therapy or, PTO2, that kind of thing. So if you want to keep your options open, or if you apply to the 7-year program and are not accepted, then there are a lot of other options for you to pursue pre-med at TCNJ. We do have a pre-med concentration, and this is not something that's associated with any one major. So you could major in anything and still have access to the advising resources that TCNJ offers for any student thinking of going to medical school or pursuing medicine in any way. So this is called the Medical Careers Advisory Committee. This is a team of TCNJ professors and also medical doctors, really just there to answer any questions that you might have along the way. It can be really hard to plan for the 4 years out of school while you're still in that first 4. So they're really just there for you to be able to ask, what classes do I need to take as prerequisites to apply? What opportunities would look good for me on a resume? Things like that, or, study tips for the MCAT. So really, they're just a really wonderful resource for any student considering pre-med, and that's not just for the 7-year students, that's for anybody. So I'm going to put this link in the chat. There's a Q&A on that list that I think should probably answer most basic questions about that program. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the Q&A again. Does anybody have any other questions? I don't see any right now. What are you looking for in an ideal candidate for BSMD for the 7-year program? Great question. And I'll be honest, I don't review them myself because they're reviewed by both TCNJ and by the medical school at the same time. So I don't really have a hand in the decision-making process, but I do know it's pretty competitive. So just to apply, you need to pass 2 eligibility requirements. One is a GPA requirement, one is an SAT requirement. So for the GPA, it's really more class rank. So they're looking for students in the top 5% of their class or higher. If your school doesn't rank, that's okay. They'll just look for excellent grades, they say. I just say class rank because GPA varies from school to school. You might be on a different scale, so it could mean different things to different people. But really just top 5% of their class or in that range of really excellent grades being, of the highest performing students at your school. That's what they're looking for in your transcript. And then the other thing that you would need to be considered is a 1500 on your SAT or higher, or a comparable ACT score, which I think is either 34 or 35. We have a conversion chart that I usually check. But those are what you need to be considered. After that, you read your application, they may extend you a TCNJ interview. If you pass that, great. They may then extend you an interview with Rutgers. If you get that, that's great. And then they pull from that pool. So through each step, they weed out students. So like I said, it's pretty competitive, but you should definitely give it a try if you think that you fall within that range. Other than that, I'm sure that they would love to see any experience that you might have with medicine just as a high school student. So it could be volunteering at a hospital. I know this year has kind of thwarted that. Or it could be shadowing a doctor at any point. It could just be a pre-med club or a bio club at school, or, something like that. Any kind of interest would be great. Is it easy to switch majors? Good question. You can request to switch at any time. So we understand that a lot of students switch throughout their time in their undergraduate degree. That's okay. I can't guarantee that you would be able to switch into any one program at the time that you'd like to, because it depends on the capacities at the time. And this varies over time, right? So some years we have a huge influx of students applying into the finance program. Historically, nursing has been a program that we get a lot of applications for and that the acceptance rate is low for, because they really have to be strict with the number of students that they can take in, because you can only have so many people in a lab or doing those partnerships with hospitals for your clinical experience. So those are just some examples of programs where it's going to be a bit harder to switch in at some points. For nursing, they only take a handful of transfers each year, internally or externally. But for most programs at TCNJ, you probably wouldn't have too hard a time switching in. They would just make sure that you are ready for the commitment. So for example, if you're like a junior and you're switching into engineering from English, they want to make sure that you're calc ready so you can jump into those courses. For something within the same academic school, it's probably going to be a lot easier. Can you start engineering undecided? You can, yes. So I mentioned the undecided option midway through the presentation. That is an option for you. So you can be undeclared within the engineering school. So you could be, undeclared general if you don't want to commit to that, or you can be undeclared engineering, which I would suggest if you know that you have an interest in engineering. Okay. Any more questions? Feel free to ask, guys. I'll give it another minute or so for you guys to think of anything. And in the meantime, I'm going to pull up some links to put in the chat for you to sign up for other virtual presentations with us, or to sign up, or actually you don't even have to sign up for a virtual tour. You can just take that at any time. It's just a regular web page and they're pre-recorded. So I'm going to do that right now. Try to think if anything comes to mind while I share some things with you guys. Okay, the link I just put in there was for our upcoming open house, and it's virtual, so no, you don't have to come to campus for it. But the next one, we just had our first, the next one will be Sunday, April 18th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's a really great opportunity for you to hear directly about the programs that TCNJ offers from the faculty and the students. So we do have ambassadors leading a virtual tour if you just want to hear from a current student, but we also have presentations happening throughout the day on each of the majors with the department heads and other professors from that program. So if there's something that you want to explore more there, I highly suggest that. Oh, and I have a couple more questions now. Great. What's the most competitive major? It's hard to say, honestly, and it does change year to year because, like I said, we might get an influx of applications for one program one year, and there are kind of trends in that. So before that, finance wasn't a big one, but yeah, now it's included in the list of some of the more competitive programs. I'd say, at least since I've been at the college, some of the more competitive ones have been nursing, any of the engineering programs, computer science, psychology, psychology dual major with education, a couple of the business programs. I think it's finance and accounting. There's the ones that come to mind as some of the more competitive in recent history. How far is the NJMS from TCNJ? I'm not sure exactly. I know Rutgers has multiple campuses, but I think we're no more than 40 minutes from either of them. So yeah, I don't think it would be too far, but you wouldn't have to split your time between the two because you would complete your undergraduate degree at TCNJ and then you could go on to Rutgers to complete the doctorate. So it's not like you're having to switch between the two or travel between the two if you don't want to. Okay, I'm just going to pull up one more link, and if you have any more questions, I will attend to them in just a moment.
Hi.
Hi, Anna.
Well, while you're doing that, I can start wrapping up here. Well, thank you so much for presenting, and thank you everyone for joining us. And if you have more to add after, go ahead. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey, and we'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. And also, this was just one of many sessions being hosted, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions. And in about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording, as well as all of the other sessions recordings at strivescan.com/cache. Looks like you might have gotten a couple more questions in, so I can take this down.
Oh, sure. It looks like just one. Where do students get hospital volunteering experience while they're doing their undergrad part of BSMD? We have partnerships with a number of hospitals in the area. I know Capitol Health is probably the closest, but I've also heard of students working at Hackensack University Medical Center, CHOP in Philly, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Princeton Med is a big one as well. So I'm not sure exactly. I know that there are a lot of options. Students do get a lot of experience usually when they're in those programs, but I don't know what happens when students then go to Rutgers or what that process would look like. I would think that you would get more experience during your clinical rotations when you're in that doctorate degree. So you can ask them as well, but know that, yeah, we're in a pretty good location for reaching out and working with other hospitals, thankfully. No problem. Okay, and it looks like that was last question, so it's all yours. I will stop talking.
All right, well, that's all from me too. So thank you everyone for joining us. Have a good rest of your evening. Bye.
Thank you.